Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the series finale of Sweet Home. Great series finale. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. I will go ahead and bring this up. I will kind of talk and compare and contrast the webtoon to the series finale, but I'll try and say that to the end, and I will make a distinct point of saying like this, where I'll kind of really compare and contrast stuff. But like, first off, I'm just going to talk about the series finale as a whole, and then I'll talk about some of the differences and stuff like that. Like I said, I will make a point that way in case you don't want the webtoon spoiled for you, it won't be. But anyway, getting into the episode itself, first and foremost, let's start off with the talk situation. So like I said, I was looking for more clarification about his circumstances with the whole being an ice wall. It's like he's basically a living ice wall, like, because even in later parts of this episode you still see like his body within the ice. So that's once again just a manifestation of his monsterization. But I love that the first person through the wall ended up being Hani, because she was like, right, testing it out. And it's kind of like, right, she is kind of like the craziest person there, so it kind of makes sense for her to take that leap of faith, because she's kind of like, well, my life is the life that Ho Seong wanted me to live. Like, he wants me to have a good life. It's on the other side of this, so we got to get out of here. So she goes through, and so does the lady who is sick, who was it, Young Seok went to get the medicine for, the HIV and AIDS medicine. She goes through it because it's like, what the hell, I'm living on borrowed time either way. So she goes through, and everyone follows through. I didn't recognize that Glasses Dude, who was with the overalls, did not realize he was amongst the group, because I did notice last episode there was a guy kind of smiling, but I, for whatever reason, didn't click in my head that was him, because that's the person that Talk really reacted towards, because it's like, oh, no, you're not going anywhere, because he was looking at him. And so when he exploded, yeah, but Home Dude, it's the last person to try to go through, but Talk's not letting any monsters through. And then Kim goes over to him and was like, oh, aren't you going through? And he kind of finds out it's really him. So it's like, it's also important for Kim to like get back against this guy, because he never fully got it last time. But the lady that's with Chong Seok and Yisul, she ends up helping them, like, because she like starts attacking him, because it's like, for her, like, she doesn't enjoy this whole monster killing, being better to human. It's just, she just wanted to survive. And so for her, it's like, I will like hold him off, especially when he starts spreading his mercury everywhere. And I love that like Kim has got him in like this leg chokehold over his head with like his legs and stuff, and they have to like tiptoe over her like tentacles to try and get through the wall, and she's being buried and burned underneath all of this mercury. Like I said, I'm calling it mercury, but maybe it's not. But Kim puts the bomb in his mouth and gets through just before it explodes, and the room is on fire, and she still is like got a tentacle stabbing him, making sure that he doesn't go anywhere. So I wasn't expecting that. My thought was like, maybe they'd have something to do with the song One of it all, but they had absolutely nothing to do with it. They had their, like, he was trying to leave here with them. I don't know what he was going to do, like, once he did. Like, maybe he would have stayed hidden amongst the humans. Whatever the case may be, it's a moot point of what he would have done. You kind of feel fine with him dying, because you're like, he's the most sociopathic of the others. Once again, you might feel bad for him, just like the Son Juan of it all, but it's just like, nah, screw it. You became a bad guy. You've done terrible things. I didn't even realize this last episode until this episode, when he tried to, like, when Kim looked at his hands are on backwards. Like, it's on his left hand, he has a right hand because of the way the thumb is faced. I was like, I did not realize that. I was like, oh, that's so interesting. I don't think I talked about that last episode, that he got new hands. I'm pretty sure I didn't talk about that. So that was kind of a dead giveaway. So, but yeah, got what he deserved. It's kind of sad the lady went down with him, but I think she's in that situation where I think she would have preferred death than continuing to go on like she has. So it's like, man, this season they dropping bodies left and right this season, like, especially like even in final episode, they're making sure like, no, we're gonna keep dropping bodies. So at the same time this is all happening, we have the whole Hyuk and Hyun fighting through the army made by Yisu, well, made by her, but now being controlled by Song Won. And given the opportunity, Hyuk still goes after her, even though Hyun's like, no, don't do that. Like, let me get to her. And it's like, well, how do you want to stop him otherwise? And Hyuk like throws his blade, and using his powers through Yisu, Sungwon tries to stop it, but Yisu's like, no, like get out, and she ends up getting stabbed. He hops out of her body because I think it's just kind of the thing of, right, she still has enough. Like I said, last episode at the very end she was crying, so I think Yisu was still free enough after everything. I think when Hyuk like stabbed her last episode, it caught Sungwon off guard, and I think it gave her enough wiggle room to escape. It's sad though, she's mortally wounded, and Hyun's looking after her and saying, "It's like, I'm too late, aren't I?" And she's like, "No, this is what I wanted." She's like, "I wanted to die with my dad." And she's like, "I made so many more monsters, and I'm sorry." He's like, "No, it's really okay." And I think it's so beautiful that Seung Yu comes over, and because I forgot to talk about the fact is he was the one pointing Hyuk in her direction last episode, which makes sense because, like, right, he remembers these faces, so. And he's there kind of like over her wound and stuff. And Hyun is just kind of, it's sad. It's just like, because he's helped look after this kid from time to time over the time skip. And it's kind of sad to just come down to this. But for her, it's like, if I'm dead, like, I'm fine with dying because I'll finally be able to be with my mom. And it's like, it's sad that it came down to this, that Yu Kyung is gone and now this is happening. I was hoping that at least she'd make it out of this, and it's sad. It's like, it's not like her dad's dying with her. It's just like she's dying on her own, but she's asking Hyun, it's like, kill my dad for me, please. Because like, she's probably thinking like, at the very least, if he dies, like, he won't be this evil bastard anymore. He'll be my dad again, and maybe me and him and my mom, we could all kind of be together finally. So Hyun goes after him. He hops into different bodies. The first body he hops into, because I thought he'd go for, well, I don't know if he can necessarily bounce into those other bodies because they're monster bodies, so he can't really jump. Well, no, because I was about to say, well, because the body he jumped into in the fire was home dude he killed, like his right-hand dude in the suit from last episode. It's like, yeah, I was like, he's a monster human, so maybe that's a little different because what Yisu's done with because I expected him to hop from body to body, but he never got into any body that was possessed that Yisu had made into a monster. So I wonder, did that make them no longer candidates? Because maybe he can only possess humans and monster humans, but not regular bodies, and especially maybe regular monster bodies aren't compatible with him. But yeah, like Hyun, like, immediately took the body and like stuck him in the fire. It's like, cool, stay in there and burn. But he hops out of a body and lo and behold goes back into Sung Woo's body. But the problem is, like, I think very much like the Yisu situation, he was out of Sung Woo's body long enough to give Sung Woo some control back, because Sung Woo wasn't completely dead. He was dying, but he wasn't completely dead by the time. He was still holding on just a tiny bit by the time Sungwon took over his body. So now his body's healed up a little bit more, but now it's also like, right, I'm in control. It gave him kind of reign over the body, and so we have that, him thinking about a lot of stuff over season 1, being told by Jay to, like, oh, fight in your own way, and just how things ended with him and Yuri in the season 1 finale. And yeah, he crawls into the fire. We do see Yisu have a reaction. I wonder, is that a byproduct of, let's not forget that Sungwon put like a small portion of himself in her when she was still in Yikyong's womb, just because that's what made him be able to track her down in the first place and felt their connection. So I don't know if that piece of her that, like him, that was still there since her birth was acting that way, or was it because it's like, you are his blood, you are his direct blood, so him dying, that was proof of him dying because you were feeling it. I don't know. I feel like that could be interpreted either way, but yeah, like, because initially Hyuk was like, let him possess my body, and then I will, like, go in there and stay in there until he's dead. He's like, right, you don't have to worry about me because I don't actually die. But Hyun wanted to be the one to end it, but it ended up being Sung Woo who ended up ending it, which felt very poetic. I mean, it was his body, like, for it to be him after all of this to be the one. I mean, he did it even in season 2 as a flashback to, like, him, like Sungwon trying to fight back against the body fighting him. So both Sung Woo and Yisu both fought you back to get what they wanted, and then despite everything and your machinations kind of come crumbling down, that the daughter that was raised to be human stopped you, and this regular human stopped you despite what you are and everything. So I think that was kind of like meant to be an element to this. But obviously, in the aftermath of this, we catch up with Eon-yu, who made her way back to the Green Home Apartments, which makes a lot of sense. She goes back specifically to their room, and then she starts the process because she becomes symptomatic. She already was, but now her nose is bleeding. She sees her brother, and it's just kind of like, he's like, right, aren't we supposed to stick together? Like, I've been looking everywhere for you. And for her, it's just like, can't you make this more realistic? Because she's like, if you keep acting like that, you're going to make this seem more and more like a lie. And just in that moment, obviously she's scared, and it's kind of nice, even if it's a lie, even knowing it's a lie, having him by her side feels very poetic, and she kind of just gives into it. So Hyun nor Hyuk have any idea where to begin looking for her now. But Hyun makes a promise, because Hyun comes from the perspective of, we'll find her again because she'll follow the others. Everyone that becomes like a neo-human like me, she'll follow by them. But Hyun's like, not if I find her first and turn her back into a human, because he plans on turning any monster he comes across back into humans, which he does for everyone that Yisu turned, because they were just perpetually stuck in that position. I think after like Yisu maybe died. We'll talk about that later, but he does eventually go back. And I love the whole thing of him saying, he said, oh, you got a lot of work cut out for you. Hyun is like, you motherfucker, you always got to have the last word, and bounces. But then you have Hyuk looking at the picture, thinking about back, at the end of season 1 when he was still inside the apartments, looking at the picture, and he kind of smiles and tries to like wave. And so it's like, okay, so he's not pretending. These are moments where he is, he's trying to relearn as his sister wanted him to. It's like, right, you have all your memories. All you have to do is relearn how to emotion, so he's just kind of like, okay. So the smile and everything is him trying to fake it till he makes it. So I thought that was him just still trying to pretend like he wasn't still himself. Once again, he had a very cold personality to begin with, but he wasn't emotionless like he is now. But still feels very poetic that the cold character who was emotionless is now like having to learn who is now emotionless now has to learn to be emotional again. So we also got the priest and the woman riding off on their motorcycles. So I'm like, once again, I'd have to go back to season 2 to remember like what the entirety of that storyline was, but they're just kind of out on their own. So that's all there is to it. But yeah, we catch up with like Kim and the survivors. There's a lot of them, and we focus on that woman that, once again, Young Seok wanted to save, the one who HIV or AIDS. And I think for her, it's just a thing of, I have this chance, so I'm not going to waste it. I'm going to keep going. And even Kim kind of gives her the nod by like giving her that water. It's just kind of like, it's okay. Like, she blames herself a lot for like what happened to Young Seok, but she's also, because she's like, right, I want it to live. And I know a lot of people in this group hold resentment against me, but they're all making sure that she lives too. So like, we're all in this together, so just make sure, here's some water to help you take down the pill that you needed to. So I also love when Hyun shows up with Chung Seok, and it's Honey and Yiseo there, and they both rush over, but Yiseo's the one that got to him first, and Honey just pushes past Hyun. She's like, move it, Hyun. I'm like, what? It's not my fault. So I was like, oh, I guess she does legitimately just like him after the little moments they shared in the previous episodes. But Yuseo is kind of like, no, it's kind of mine. So, but yeah, they came back with all these survivors, and there was even this one father who like bows his head to Hyun because it's like, because you brought me back, I was able to be with my my family again. So many people reunited because of what Hyun did. But now the question becomes like, well, where do we even begin looking for Eon-yu? They're having to figure out what they're going to do next. And so they all move together as a group, and they end up finding a whole bunch of new neo-humans on the way. And this is a little spoilerish, but like I said, they kind of go beyond what the neo-human thing was, which I think is so interesting. They kind of give the story an epilogue, which the webtoon kind of doesn't. Like, what I mean is, they introduced the neo-human thing to an extent of like, oh, these people coming out of cocoons, but you never really explore that much beyond that. Where in this case, it's like, right, society, like, right, we try to coexist between humans and neo-humans. Not everyone is down for it, but we are trying to make it, we have to come together if it means surviving the monsters that are out there. So it's kind of like rebuilding society in a new way, and like this new age of how everything kind of moves going forward. So we see like kind of like almost like what seems like schools and stuff like that. We also see Seong-yu, so I'm assuming in the fact that he's smiling and kind of laughing, I think Hyun like turned him back into a human. The person with him, if you look at, you don't see their face, but you see like the mark on her arm, and I'm like, that's gotta be Yisu, right? So she survived, right? I think. Because like that's the only person that Seong-yu got close to. So them having each other by the end, they both lost like both of them. Like obviously he lost like Miss Cha and his actual mom and his sister and his dad. But it's like he kind of found a new family again, which is the beauty of it. Newfound family. So, but that's about all of that. And then, in the process of waiting, we don't know how much time passes, but we finally see Hyun and Eon Hyuk make their way to the green homes, where they find Eon-yu. So I think she went through the whole process, and she went through the monsterization process, and now she's a monster human, and she's listening to headphones. And so it's interesting how everything's come full circle, because this is where her and Hyun first met. So, and it's kind of like this beautiful thing where we see like Hyuk smiling. So either he's relearned how to be emotional again. I don't think he's pretending anymore. I think he finally learned how to be emotional again. And then for those two to be there for Eon-yu, they kind of bring her back too. And the whole thing of like, as we wait, at the place, they will call it Sweet Home. So I guess meaning that maybe they moved back to the apartment building, maybe. I don't know if as a group as a whole, they eventually came back to the apartment building, making it that, or whether it's just the three of them in particular. Because, well, now I can definitively say there are 4 survivors from the green homes. Eon-yu, Hyun, Hyuk, and Seong-yu. So I thought that was very beautiful and poetic. I can't remember... That's why I'm like, I don't think it's a spoiler for the webtoon, because I think they brought it up in season 1 of the TV show, but I'm pretty sure I don't think it comes up this late in the series, does it? I can't remember. But the name Sweet Home, like, do correct me in the comments down below if they did this during season 1 or not. But I know the title from the series Sweet Home comes from Jisoo's song, the one she was playing on her guitar in season 1 of the TV show. The same, that's directly from the webtoon as well, and it doesn't have a title. I don't remember if season 1 they gave it the title Sweet Home, or in the webtoon does it eventually get named Sweet Home here at the end of the series. I can't remember, because the song, I like to believe that's what, because that was what Hyuk was listening to, I believe, when he, like, at the end of season 1, and now, like, once again, she's got earphones in, so she's listening to something on a cassette player, so I believe it's got to be that, because I know that's where the title from everything stems from. So it's still, like I said, a very, like, despite all the death and destruction, there's a lot of death, a lot of sadness associated with it. It's still, like, very beautiful and uplifting. Like, yeah, you won't get to fully see what the world becomes, but like I said, it's kind of like the webtoon ends in that similar fashion of, hey, this is how the world is, but we never really get to experience, because you have like technically 2 locations in the final chapter, which this is where we're going to start entering spoiler territory for the webtoon. So if you don't want to know, kind of like skip over this, or because I don't think I'm going to be saying anything else by the end of this really in relation to the episode, other than in comparisons to the webtoon. So what I think it's interesting, well, you've been warned. So it's talking spoiler comparisons now. It's an interesting inverse in a lot of ways, because the webtoon ended with Hyun finding his way back to the survivors. So for them to be the ones to find their way to Eon-yu, because for one, in the webtoon, she never went through the monsterization process. Even the whole aspect of her being a pseudo stand-in and combination of Jisoo's character, Jisoo never went through it either. So So for that to be, I think that's so fascinating, and it's interesting that this trio of characters, because Hyun, when he went through his monsterization, which he never fully goes monsterization in this like he does in the webtoons. Like, it's again very, very different situation. But he lost control, so Hyuk had to give into his monsterization and turn into a giant net to basically contain Hyun, and he eventually came out of it as like what is in this series known as a neo-human. And he was kind of lost until I think he heard Jisoo's music. I think he gets the cassette and listens to the song, and eventually finds his way to Jisoo and the other survivors, and they're all reunited. And even like it seemed like he was kind of a little emotionless, but then he kind of gets back a little bit of who he was at the very end when he's reunited with everyone. So that's why I'm thinking it's so interesting. And like I said, a little inverse, like Hyuk had to deal with the ending, but like I said, it was about Eunyu in this case instead of Jisoo in the webtoon. But it's, well, more so like it was Hyun, because Hyun actually hasn't gone through the neo-human process like the others did. So I mean, I guess maybe arguably you could say like he kind of did when he got turned to stone, but that's not the same thing. So I think that's interesting. But also like the biggest difference is survivors, because once again Jisoo is still alive. Seongyu is alive in this, but also his sister is alive in this. God, what was his name? Is it like Byung-gil, I believe? He's the dude that worked for the dude who was a douchebag to his wife in the first season. The guy that worked for him, that character, very different character in the webtoon, but that character is alive in the webtoon. I'm trying to remember. Oh, Yuri and Sung-woo. Well, I should also note, it's something, like I said, that's going to be an interesting thing. I'd love to kind of do a rewatch of season 1 and kind of point that out, some of those differences. But like Sung-woo, they very much made him like a hitman, fixer, gangster. In this, he's a cop in the webtoon. Because I hadn't got to that point, because you don't get to like where season 1 ends. Once you kind of get the criminals breaking in, that whole story arc is where you find out about Sung-woo being a cop. Up until that point, you didn't know. So I thought he was just a gangster because I was watching the show at the same time I was reading the webtoon. So I assumed that, oh, he must be. It's like, nope, he's not that at all in the webtoon. So just thought that was kind of interesting. But yeah, he's alive and Yuri is alive, which makes that whole thing even sadder too. Getting that shot of them dead together, like from season 1 at the end, is just even sadder because of that. But I believe that's kind of the main crux of the survivors. It's interesting because I'd said like, right, the survivor count from the Green Homes is like half of the survivors from the webtoon, but it's even more so when you think about the fact is everyone that, even though they weren't main characters, all the recurring characters we got to know, well, a good chunk of the recurring characters we knew from the stadium, plus random background characters from the stadium survived. So because the only people we followed in the aftermath of the after the Green Home situation were our main characters. So it's technically there are way more people surviving in the webtoon, I mean in the TV show, than the webtoon. So I think that's fascinating. But then also and it's where I kind of brought up the fact is that we kind of end where the webtoon does because of the Eunyu of it, which is supposed to be like very much like the Hyun circumstances in the webtoon. But we have that, but really it's like take the ending of this plus where season 2 went, like them going to the stadium and stuff like that, being taken in by the army and stuff. That's pretty much the ending of the webtoon. So it's actually interesting, like the ending of season 1 / the beginning of season 2 to some extent, like when they're with the army and stuff. And I guess more so with the stadium than anything else. And you can combine that with this, you kind of pretty much get the ending of the webtoon. So it's kind of just interesting, like how that, if you slice that together or splice that together, how that results. So I don't know, just thought that was kind of fascinating. I know people who are fans of the webtoon have probably complicated feelings about the live action. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Once again, it's like I wasn't as attached to the webtoon. I was aware of it. Like I said, I think I started watching the show after I read a few chapters of the webtoon. I think, or maybe it was vice versa. Either way, I still walked away enjoying both because I think you can enjoy both. Maybe you like one more than the other, but I still think they are different experiences enough that you could still enjoy both because they're not fully one-to-ones. Like, even season 1, there are big enough changes that you can still enjoy it. So, and then obviously, once again, you got season 2 and 3 that went in a completely different route, because once again, it's not based on a webtoon. It's just a continuation of the story they've set up in the show. Like I said, I really would love to go back and do a rewatch of season 1 now, having read the webtoon, and just be able to really do a side-by-side in that capacity. But yeah, like I said, I just thought this was like a beautiful ending and conclusion. And like I said, very much like the webtoon, open-ended, where it's like there's an ending, but there's obviously more room and more story you could tell in this universe. But ending it this way in the TV show, as well as just kind of where the webtoon ends, I think are perfect spots to end things. Because there is no, like, I mean, like I said, the TV show goes a little further, so it's like, the closest thing you get to a solution to everything is like, hey, let's live in harmony with the neo-humans. There's no resolution like that necessarily in the webtoons. It's just like, we follow these characters through what they've done, and we've gotten to this ending point with Hyun's story. He was our main protagonist, and we see his story come to an end to this extent, even though it's kind of a new beginning in a lot of ways. So, and I think this symbolizes that same capturing that same feeling of a new beginning. So, to everyone involved, obviously the creator, the author, and the artist for the webtoon, as well as everyone that took part in the TV show, thank you for an amazing webtoon. Thank you for an amazing show. And just to everyone in front of the camera, behind the cameras, involved with this series, I wish them the best in their future endeavors. Thank you so much for bringing this webtoon to life and telling this story. Like I said, it kind of became its own thing, kind of almost like an alternate companion piece to the webtoon in a lot of ways. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm going to wrap things up here, because I've run my mouth off long enough. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.